Well, hello, and welcome back to our little podcast here, Radio Nerd America. We've been gone for a little bit. Alan, where have you been?
I've been around, working, nerding out, geeking out. Just, lots of stuff been going on. We haven't been able to do the show as much as we wanted to, but we're ready to get back into the swing of it now, right?
Exactly. I was out, had some things to do in January, and then I got sick for a week. That kind of killed any podcast aspirations we had. I wanted to reiterate just kind of what Alan said there. We're committed to doing this podcast. Sorry that we've been gone. We're going to make a concerted effort to at least get 2 episodes out a month.
Yeah, and I think that's good. That allows us to have enough new topics. When we first came out of the gate, it was rapid fire, one a week almost, and then but now I think we're settling into a better cadence here at this pace.
I agree. So let's see, what's the first thing we want to talk about here?
Oh yeah, so in the intro segment here, we're going to talk a little bit of TV, stuff that we can watch on TV, and then a couple of things we're geeking out over. So Michael, bring us on into some of these TV topics.
Let's start with something we saw just a couple weeks ago. A trailer just came out. It's a Netflix original movie called The Discovery. Now, not a lot is known about it, other than it's by the same director of The One I Love, Charlie McDowell, starring Rooney Mara, Jason Segel, and Robert Redford. The gist is that the film takes place 1 year after the existence of the afterlife is verified. Mm-hmm. It's kind of dealing with the ramifications of that. How is society going to react once there is conclusive evidence that an afterlife does exist?
That sounds really interesting, and it reminded me, I think I mentioned to you before, we're both big fans of the movie Arrival.
Yes.
And we mentioned the book that contains the short story that was based on.
Yes.
There is also a short story in that book about a world where we find out that angels are real, like the biblical angels, Gabriel, and these guys.
I have that book.
Real. Did you read it?
I haven't read it yet. So.
Oh my God! So I won't get too much into it, but it kind of reminds me of this in a bit of like there is finally proof that there is something after, and that story was really interesting, and I think this has the same potential.
You really piqued my interest because a friend of mine lent me the book right after I saw the movie, and it's been sitting in my pile, something to read. I haven't yet, but now that you've thrown that bit in there, now I definitely have to pick it up and check that out. That sounds interesting.
So we have a date for this one, though?
Yep, it's going to come out March 31st. The trailer we saw, YouTube it only has one quote in the whole trailer, and it's just Jason Segel kind of turning and saying, people are going to just keep killing themselves.
Yeah, I mean, just that line in the little synopsis you gave, it's very intriguing and very much based on sort of, I'll call it in the realm of sci-fi and supernatural, right? So it could be. I'm really excited about that. I thought you were saying it was an actual movie, but now, which it is, but I thought you meant like a pay one. You have to go to the theater. So I'm excited to see it on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think Netflix is doing some interesting things. They're buying these original movies and whatnot.
Yeah, and I'll touch a little bit on Netflix shortly here. But the next one that you're going to talk about as well is something that I'm also very interested in because I feel like there's sort of a groundswell around this series here, and season 2 has just started, right?
Correct. I want to say it started about 3 weeks ago. We're talking about The Expanse. Now, I'm going to admit, the first season, I think we touched on this already, the first half is a little bit of a slog. It takes a bit, at least in my opinion, for the story to really get going, but that's just because there's so many storylines that you don't realize until later how they're intertwined.
Yeah.
So I did finish that first season. I think I mentioned that before, right in one of our last podcasts, and now the second season is out, and already this show has hit the ground running, and it's much stronger, I feel, than the first season already.
And this is on Sci-Fi Network, right?
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
It seems like there wasn't much of a break between season 1 and season 2.
Oh, there was a year.
Really, a full year?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, I must not have heard about season 1 then until after it was well over then.
I would say it was a slow burn. It started getting a lot of critical acclaim. And I hear everywhere I see people saying it's the best thing sci-fi has done since Battlestar Galactica. Or it's the next Battlestar Galactica.
Right, which, I've been critical of Sci-Fi Channel in the past. To be fair, they haven't done much that's actually any good. I'm not saying Battlestar Galactica isn't.
Right.
But they're also churning out Sharknado and this stuff as well, right?
Exactly. Now,
so hopefully this raises the bar for them to be a little bit more, we'll call it highbrow sci-fi.
Yeah, it's definitely hard sci-fi too. There's spaceships and everything in it, but it's not like Star Wars or Star Trek where you want to go to the other end of the galaxy and let me just kick it into warp or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a lot of real world physics going on, so it's hard sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start to dive into that series at some point. Another series, a little bit of a lighter note that you're a big fan of.
Rick and Morty. We're still waiting for season 3 to come out. It's now been about a year and a half since season 2 finished. But there's been some chatter online. Dan Harmon, one of the creators, basically came out and said, "Yeah, I'm the dick. I'm the reason why it's not out yet." But we're super eager for more. The reason I want to mention it is because it happened to be on sale a couple weeks ago, and I had to get my Rick and Morty fix. So I went ahead and bought the Season 2 Blu-ray.
Season 2 Blu-ray, yeah.
It's fantastic. If you
I've never watched the show. I kind of know of it, but there's like 10 shows that I don't watch any of them, and I hear people talk about, and I don't really know which one is which, but...
Imagine Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Right.
He's basically Rick, but imagine him as a nihilistic alcoholic.
Do you remember, if we're going to touch on Cartoon Network, Adult Swim a little bit here. Now, is this an Adult Swim show or not?
Yes, I believe. Yes,
okay.
It is. Yes, it is.
I think from seeing a little bit about this, do you remember the show they had on there called Super Jail?
I'm not familiar.
Anyway, it was really interesting and really crazy. But I think those two series have like a similar animation style. Really almost like scribbly pencil sketch almost.
Well, Rick and Morty definitely has its own style. I don't know if it's scribbly, but now you've made it so I have to go find what this Super Jail show is.
No, you might actually like it. I mean, it's kind of... I don't want to put it in the same realm as One Punch Man, because it's not at all. But it is in the sense that it's kind of over the top in its sort of...
I'm okay with that. That's why I love One Punch Man. That's why I love Rick and Morty. That's why I want more Rick and Morty.
Yeah, okay. So the next one, going back to Netflix here.
So Stranger Things Season 2 trailer came out during the Super Bowl.
No bigger stage.
No, exactly. And damn it, why does it have to be Halloween before we find out what happens next?
True, and now don't get me wrong, Halloween's a great time to launch the show.
Oh yeah.
But so I just got Netflix, everyone, by the way, for the first time since it was a DVD service only, basically. The first thing I binge watched was Stranger Things. But yeah, I mean, that show was over a while ago, and then now it's going to be almost a whole nother year before the next one, and so...
Yeah, I'd finish, this summer sometime? Something like that? Summer-ish?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, they released all the episodes at once, so it came out this summer.
But I guess maybe that's part of it, too, on Netflix now, when they're releasing all the episodes at once. You know, rather, in normal TV world, that would have been 3 months from the first one to the end.
Correct.
Right? And now it's like, just in a snap, it's over, it's done.
Exactly. So... Did you love Stranger Things?
No, so I did love Stranger Things. I think we got some feedback on the show when we didn't title it or didn't crown it the best TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And I will stand behind it that it was not the best TV show. It was super enjoyable. Super, super enjoyable. I mean, like I said, we binge watched it in 2 or 3 nights, 3 or 4 episodes at a time.
So it couldn't have been terrible.
No, it was great. It was great. But I have to say it was basically a remix of The Thing.
Oh, yeah.
The Goonies, you know, for throwing a couple 2 things more, and it was just basically a remix of all that stuff, which is like, hey, all that stuff was great. The nostalgia was great, but I can't give it many points for originality, but I loved it. I did love that.
I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you, because the way I've described the show to others is, if you love 1980s Stephen King and Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis, Joe Dante, all that, made a universe that was created around those ideas, that's Stranger Things.
I totally loved it. Super enjoyable.
I agree. It is a bit derivative, but I'll give you that. As derivative as it is, I find it more enjoyable than the derivative-ness, if you will, of, say, J.J. Abrams and Super 8.
Yeah. I mean, to me, they're kind of in the same realm to me. I don't put one over. I really enjoyed them both. I will say, though, one thing I was slightly disappointed, because there was a lot of hype, right? There was a lot of people had seen it before I saw it, and I've heard a lot about it. I was a little bit disappointed. I thought the kids had more screen time, and really they didn't. The kids were at least at best 50-50 with sort of the adults in the show, and so I was always wanting more of the kids.
I can see that.
And again, I'm not discrediting the show. It's just I just thought it was all about the kids, and it really wasn't.
More like Goonies or something like that.
Yeah.
I can see that. So, very geeked about Stranger Things Season 2 coming out. Just wished we didn't have to wait for Halloween. But I get it, and it seems like the show is also going to be taking place around Halloween. We saw the kids wearing their Ghostbusters, yes. So it has to be fall of 1984, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so that'll be great. All right, so we're going to kind of close up our recap intro segment here with one thing from each of us that we're sort of geeking out over right now. Michael, why don't you shoot first?
My first one's a comic book. We'll get into this more some other time, but I've switched to just straight trades on comic books. So I found this series. It's the latest series by Sean Murphy and Ed Brubaker. It's called Kill or Be Killed. About the first trade, I think it's just the first 4 issues. Mm-hmm. And it takes the idea of an anti-hero vigilante and kind of turns it on its head a bit. The reason it's called Kill or Be Killed, it's all about this guy, kind of depressed, very depressed actually. He tries to kill himself, and he doesn't die. Okay, not that big a deal. He kind of realizes that was stupid to try and kill myself. I shouldn't have done that. I have lots to live for. But then that night, he gets a visitor and basically says, you owe a life for a life. So you now have to kill one person a month. Or is it a week? No, a month.
So yeah, once a month, he has to take another life so that he can keep his life going. So it's interesting in that, there's a reason why he's doing it. And it's not necessarily an altruistic and good reason. I mean, it's pretty violent.
Well, okay, so I want to touch on something here. I think this premise is sort of odd. It doesn't seem to make much sense. But I think based on other things you've said you liked before, you like these sort of goofy premises. I feel like because he tried to kill himself and it didn't work, now you have to kill somebody once a week or a month. That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like that sort of falls in with Equilibrium's premise, Old Man's War that you love. Oh. They just seem kind of weird, but you love that stuff.
Well, you have to have some kind of premise. There has to be a reason for the story. And, but it's a comic book, so there's a little bit of a suspension of disbelief.
I guess it's not extremely logical, but I will say that, we touched on this a minute ago, there's a lot of things that's already been done in comic books and sci-fi, so if we're going to get to any sort of new ideas or new ground, you kind of have to take a left turn somewhere with your plot, right?
Well, exactly. With 80-plus years of comic books now at this point in time, anything to be done has been done, so you gotta make it original somehow. You gotta put your spin on things.
Yeah, and in that sense, I will give you credit. You're open to more new and interesting things in this fantasy and geek world than I am. And just to prove that was the one thing you were geeking out about right now, sort of something I'll say is underground, a little off the radar. What I want to talk about is very much on the radar, center of the bullseye in the geek world. You can guess what it is.
Are you going to talk about Star Wars again?
Yes, it has to do with Star Wars. What I wanted to touch on was, in about a week from now, the third and final book in the Aftermath trilogy of the Star Wars novel saga is coming out by Chuck Wendig. It's called Empire's End. I'm really excited about it. We touched on the first book. Some people thought it was a slow burn. The second book build momentum, brought in some good storylines with some characters, well-known characters, Han and Chewie for one. And now this third book, we think there's going to be some big things sort of uncovered that may have repercussions to The Force Awakens and the next movies. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So that's a question I have. You've read the first 2 books. How close do you think this is going to get to The Force Awakens at the end of this trilogy?
It doesn't bump right up to it because there's another book called Bloodlines where Princess Leia is the main character.
Yep.
That takes place somewhere after the end of this trilogy and before Force Awakens. So it doesn't bump right up to it like Rogue One did with A New Hope. I think there's a lot of breathing room still in there. This Empire's End book may very well end a good 10 years before The Force Awakens actually happens, but I don't know that detail yet.
That makes sense because I think we're talking... I don't know the official, and if I was a true Star Wars geek, I would know. I think the end of Return of the Jedi and the beginning of The Force Awakens is, 16, 20 years, somewhere around that range?
Yeah, because I think they were trying to say that it was the actual amount of time that Luke would have aged in real life, right? From Jedi until now.
So 30 years?
Yeah, it's long, right? Luke was just a kid.
Oh, that would make more sense.
Right? Luke was 25 maybe in Jedi?
Yeah, it makes more sense. You're right.
So, yeah.
So it could be closer to 30 years since I think, from one to the other.
Yeah, there's a lot of breathing room in there for Star Wars to expand on. So those are 2 things we were really geeking out about. We're going to touch on the topic we started off. We teased last episode. Michael's pretty excited about it. It's a fun topic. Tell him what it is.
We've engaged our significant others to help us with this episode. We haven't seen it yet. What they did was pros and cons of life with a geek. So looking forward to seeing what they had to say about it, because I haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen it yet.
No. We're going to do a live reveal here. So we have that we're going to get into. Should be fun. And then we also have one of our little segments, Should I Check It Out, is coming up later this episode. And I'm excited to get into it.
So let's do it.
What makes you think you can bullshit your way into my head? Like every other pencil-neck piece of shit.
Okay, here we are, and we're back. We're going to get into the main topic. Just again, as a recap, we asked our significant others. I have a wife. Michael has...
I have a partner.
A partner. And so we asked them to say, what are 3 pros and 3 cons, or more, of living with a geek or a nerd? And obviously, the geek or a nerd is us, right? Not in general, it's us.
We're doing a podcast.
So
we're definitely nerds.
They gave us the information. Michael has the info from my wife via email. I have the info from Michael's partner via email. Neither of us know what they actually are. So really quickly first, we've read each other's. I want to touch on, from what you've read, what do you give me a little synopsis of my wife and I's relationship?
It's clear you're newlyweds. That's in a sentence, that's what I get. I know. Are you still technically in that newlywed sphere? What is it, like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that?
Yeah, I think we just passed a year and a half.
You're still in that, just judging by these pros and cons.
Okay, and what I will say from reading yours is your partner loves you very much. And
there's a butt coming.
No butt? Not
Okay.
at all. The follow-up is that I think they did a very good job of not saying anything at all critical of you. Even though
what?
I think at some point they thought they were, but I was hoping for a little bit more dirt, but let's dig into it. Let's dig in.
I'm going to tell you right now, I know me. And I know how idiosyncratic I can be about my geek interests.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm still expecting pain, but now you've kind of made it.
No, I don't. Well, unless you're completely oblivious to who you are, I don't think there's any pain. I don't think there's any pain in here. I don't think there's any breaking news in here.
We're recording a podcast once again about geek stuff. I'm pretty sure I know who I am. We're surrounded by Star Wars, Predator, comic book toys. I think I know who I am, but this could be an eye-opener.
Okay, so do you want to start with the positives or the negatives?
Let's do back and forth. Do one pro, then one con.
Okay, so I'll start with the pro. So this is Michael's partner giving a pro about him.
Are we allowed to say her name? Do you want me to say your wife's name, or does she not want to be known?
No, you can. Yeah, let's say my wife's name is Amanda.
And my partner's name is Shaylee.
Yep. And so, to quote, she says, as a positive, to be a geek, you have to be obsessed and passionate with something. That is the number one qualifier. Now imagine that same person putting that much energy and commitment into your relationship. Winning! Exclamation point.
Oh, that's very sweet.
It's so sickeningly sweet.
Well, I don't think it's sickeningly sweet because it's about me.
Shaylee, that one was a little bit of a cop-out because you could have, like she said, passionate with something. It could have been anything. You could have been passionate about cooking and that same thing would have applied. So,
but I think we all know where my love lies.
No, she's
geek stuff.
That's a very loving partner.
And Shaylee.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you go ahead. What's the first positive you have over there?
Number one pro, having a live-in partner to play Super Nintendo with. Also, someone just as excited to try the new Mini Nintendo Classic NES.
Right. So that's a bit of a current event one there, too, because we still have not bought our Mini NES. Because
you still can't find them.
No, you still can't get them.
No.
But we do have a working Super Nintendo, so that holds us over.
It still works?
Yep.
I'm impressed.
Okay, let me get into the second one. No, that one's great. I love that one. No problems there.
Right,
right?
and everything I know about you and how passionate you were about the Nintendo, the classic NES over Christmas, and you talked about it, this fits perfectly. So, Amanda knows you.
Good. That's a good thing. Okay, next one. I'll quote again.
Wait, this is a pro or this is a con?
Oh, no, we want to go to negatives, right?
Yes.
Okay,
let me get to a con.
All right, let me get to a negative here. She says, obsessive doesn't always mean clean, neat, or organized. Gadgets, electronics, piles of comics and books, action figures, music. They are so busy catching up on all things geek, oftentimes basic things are left unnoticed. So you're getting a lot of enjoyment out of that. But again, I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's the stuff you're into. That's the stuff you're important about. Like, hey.
There's no way I can deny it.
No.
I look and I there are piles of comics that I have not read and may not ever read.
So just let me know if I'm getting too personal here. You guys are not living together at the moment.
Half living together.
Yeah, you guys each still have your own place, though.
Yes.
So, do you think this refers to just your place, or is this spilling over into her place?
It's already spilling over.
Okay.
I've been told that the downstairs is mine to decorate.
So that's just where you put all your junk.
No. But I won't get too much into it, but we bought a nice bookshelf and all that stuff. and we put it around the TV. And I'm decorating it with my geek stuff. And I do admit, there's already a couple whole sections dedicated just to trade paperbacks, comics. And then there's another area for hardcover comics. I've got Star Wars shelf. I've got album shelves. I've got a lot of geek stuff. And that's just a small fraction of what's at my house.
We're touching on an interesting topic here because I think a lot of times the geek or the nerd is sort of stereotyped as sort of single. Now, you did bring in the basement, which is very much part of Nerds and Geeks, and we're recording the show in a basement.
Yes, we are.
But we're touching on the aspect of, like, hey, what it's like to actually live with one. Okay, so you have a negative, you got to say.
I do have a negative. Amanda says a con is having mini nerd figurines on display in the dining and living room areas.
That's true.
You know what? It's just how it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know what we're talking about here. There's a space, like a little cabinet thing in the dining room. I imagine old people would put china or something in there. We don't have anything to put in there. Well,
you do have something.
I have stuff to put in there. You're damn right I do. So, yeah, I'll leave it at
What's
that.
in there?
There's a Gundam.
Yes.
There's another ceramic robot thing that I painted in a ceramics class thing.
Awesome.
There may be one or two little Star Wars things in there. I think there's a couple Lego minifigures in there.
These are all much better than China.
Yeah. And then there's some non-nerd geek stuff in there too, but that's the nerd geek stuff that's in there.
Awesome. I fully approve.
Cool. All right, thanks. I appreciate your support on that one.
But to be fair, even though I was given the basement, I have a 3-foot Darth Vader that sits in the kitchen above, on top of the cabinets. That he looks over us because he should.
Yeah,
it's Darth Vader.
You got to know, like, you better stay in line.
Right. So you're not alone. I think every geek is guilty of that, having geek stuff throughout the house.
Okay, positive number 2. Let's see if it's as sappy and loving as the first one was. An inquisitive mind keeps things fresh. We're both always learning, finding new adventures, and most importantly, communicating, which are all keys to healthier relationships.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Wow.
I appreciate it. I'm a catch. That's what it comes down to. I'm a catch.
Yeah, again, you're loved very much, clearly.
I obviously need to have my ego stroked regularly.
Okay, go give me a positive from Amanda there.
Positive. Knowing if you get invited to a Halloween event, your husband's costume will be amazing.
Interestingly enough, we haven't gone to a lot of Halloween dress-up events, but I always talk about it because I say, look, I'm not going to go and dress up to something if I'm not coming hard, right? If I don't have a really good... Now, we've gone to a couple, but sometimes
why half-ass it? If you're going to do it...
Exactly. I'm not going to show up with some, I pulled this out of my closet thing. I got to show up with something that really shows that I'm a true nerd.
Example.
Well, I need to go in full Stormtrooper armor or full Boba Fett costume at some point. I don't have that costume yet, so
What have you done already?
Well, I did an X-Wing fighter pilot.
Full costume,
and it was good. It wasn't like a $500 one. It was it was on a budget, and it worked well though. It worked quite well.
Did you make it yourself, or did you buy it?
No, bought it. I don't have time for that. Anybody got time for that?
That's awesome.
Okay, I'm on to a negative for you.
Yes.
Okay, here it is. Strong opinions can be good, but they can cause a geek to question some of the basic decisions you make. Additionally, because of their loyalty and willingness to please, they can often be passive-aggressive when it comes to communicating those opinions. Now, that's loaded in there. I feel like we got 2 or 3 serious things in there. So I think what she's getting at here is that passive-aggressive from a geek, I could see that, kind of love it or hate it kind of thing. You know, you as a geek, you geek out about details and weird stuff, so you question things that you probably shouldn't question. I think that probably applies to me, too, if Amanda didn't say it. She probably didn't get that deep with it, but I think that probably applies to me as well.
Oh, how could it not? I mean, let's face it. Geeks are opinionated.
But let me say this, too. Let me go back to my original topic. My original problem with Shaylee's, what she's doing here, because I think she's not being hard enough on you. The positives are like, just lovingly positives about you. Clearly loving. The negatives, like that one, wasn't too much about being a geek. That could just be like, hey, we're all imperfect and do asshole things.
Yeah, but it could be that way. But I can also see how it's geeky because we're doing a podcast and we argue because we have strong opinions about the minutia.
That's true.
stuff that really is kind of meaningless.
Right. How could you argue about this and then,
But
not argue about
Star
something
Wars
that's
isn't
important?
meaningless. Let's just make that clear right now.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so now you're negative.
Getting completely lost after asking any nerd-related question.
Yeah. I have to hand it to my wife. She's a trooper with the nerd stuff. Like, she really gives it the good college try, the good wife try to be into it.
That's all we ask.
And but yeah, sometimes she will start to get into something, and then she'll ask me a simple question, and then it's like I've been waiting years for somebody to ask me this question, right? So I can't just give the answer. I got to give the lead up to it and the theories about it.
Right.
This is what this leads to, and now that you know this, you got to watch out for this. So yeah, you probably get some long-winded answers to basic questions.
It's not a two-sentence answer, is it, ever?
No.
It's you need graphs and charts and timelines.
And then sometimes there's even follow-up questions that I have to make sure, like, you're comprehending what I'm laying. You're picking up what I'm putting down, right?
So, yes, I'm assuming then, based on what you just said, do you ever get that moment while you're mid-answer when you see Amanda's eyes glaze over?
You know what? To be honest, I think when I get to mid-answer, I'm so into it I wouldn't even notice.
I suffer the same thing. Sometimes it's as soon as I start answering, I get the Jesus Christ, just short answer, Michael. Skip to the end.
Yeah, I could totally see that, the Shaylee whipping that out. That sounds like the Shaylee I know, not this sweet, saccharine, lovey-dovey
She is a
one.
lovely woman.
I didn't say she wasn't. I did not say she wasn't.
And I'm a catch.
Okay, my positive. This is the last positive I have from Shaylee about living with the geek that is Michael. Considering geeks are deep observers and like overanalyzing, they will probably get you better than anyone else, understand you better than anyone else, maybe even better than yourself. They will love you unconditionally and work hard to make you smile, laugh, and enjoy life.
Wow, she's really talking me up.
Again, I don't know how much that's tied to being a geek. I just think that you guys are apparently world's biggest unmarried lovebirds.
I can see the obsessiveness because I am obsessed, and once again, we notice the minutia in so many things geek-related. I admit I'm stronger at it geek-wise than relationship-wise, but apparently at least some of it is carrying over to get these wonderful, wonderful accolades.
Yeah. Okay, give me my last accolade then.
Being introduced to the Star Wars series, how did I make it this far in life without them?
That's right.
I am curious. I'm not going to ask your wife's age because you never ask a woman's age, but I'm thinking she's at least in her third decade. Right?
Wait.
So.
Oh, no, you're right. You're
Right.
right. I was thinking third decade means 30s, but third decade doesn't mean 30s.
No. I know what I'm saying. I'm not going to. So, how would you not have seen any Star Wars?
Well, I don't think it's so much she hasn't seen it. It's just didn't care. Right?
That I could get.
Yeah. I mean, because same thing with my sister. She had saw Star Wars, but she didn't really care until I started obsessing over it. And then she started, like, picking up on some of the things,
right.
And you know what I mean? So I think Amanda was the same way.
But based on her age-ish, the Star Wars prequels came out while she was still a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to do some serious math here. But I think the prequels may have came out in a time where she had no interest in something like that.
I understand.
So she may have been a little bit too young for the originals and at the wrong time to catch the prequels, so she needed me to bring her in.
Right. But kudos to her for being open enough to give it a shot. And now, obviously, she's into it.
Well, I mean, the greatest story ever told. How could you not be? I don't care. I know that's been said about other things, but that's the real one right there.
You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let me. Where am I at now here? I need to give you
a con.
Oh, this is your final con. Oh, this was the best one. Blah 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 information. They explain in great detail every aspect of every question ever asked or not asked. Being a wealth of knowledge is a great asset, but sometimes a simple question deserves a simple answer. I found the phrase "skip to the end" quite useful in our relationship. So yeah,
I just said that?
Did we not get to this from one that came from me, or we in a roundabout way got to this already? So it's good.
I mentioned that, but also Amanda did say getting completely lost after asking.
That's right. So those were two very much related ones.
Oh yeah, we obviously don't know how to give a quick answer because sometimes there isn't a quick answer.
Yeah, and
how do you describe why so-and-so and so-and-such in Star Wars is important? Well, I will tell you why.
Or such a simple question as, now where are they going? Right? That could have a very long answer.
Right. Right.
You can't just say the name of where
Even,
you're going.
Why is so and so doing that? Well,
Yeah, let me get into it.
dissertation.
Okay, now I guess this isn't my last negative because I think I had 4 negatives about
You have 4
me.
negatives.
Okay, so you're going to hit me with a double whammy here then.
There was an assignment, and Amanda broke the rules.
Well,
But that's okay.
She felt like there was one that she really had to get out there.
She's rebel. She's going to do what she wants. So, number 3 for you, Con. When it's his turn to choose a movie, there is a decent chance it will either be anime or a documentary.
I see nothing that makes that a con. Maybe she must have put that in the wrong column.
I'm going to agree with you. This is obviously a mistake because I don't know how many times I've tried to get Shay to watch Synth Britannica, a documentary on synth bands in the early 80s. That's geeky.
Let me, one thing that is probably heavily on her head and there's recently happened between us here, with us, together. We had just watched one of the, I'm blanking now, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, what's the,
Studio Ghibli, one of those movies?
Yeah, Studio Ghibli.
Ghibli or whatever.
Ghibli.
Yeah.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Okay.
So we picked that one up, watched it with Amanda. To be fair, it's not one of my favorite ones from Studio Ghibli, but I think she was kind of like, what just happened to those 1.5 hours of my life that I just watched?
Not a fan, huh?
Not a fan. So I think that was part of her being like, hey, I'm not sold on this anime thing quite yet. I haven't showed her enough good ones, maybe.
She's talking about the Disney of Japan.
I explained that to her.
Of course you did.
Don't worry, I explained that to her. But yeah, so we got to follow it up. We have, we also bought the Blu-ray of Spirited Away. So
Okay.
hoping that one we can rebound from that one. Okay, so there was another one. There was one more that she couldn't leave off. She had to do 4.
This one made me laugh. I won't even say anything. It just made me laugh. There are too many nerd items on display on his work desk to include a picture of me.
Yeah, that's to be fair. I have moved offices a couple times in the past few years, and I have misplaced the specific photo that I want to put of her in my office. But yes, let's be honest. I did find time to bring the TIE Fighter in and sit it on my desk space, and I haven't remembered to put the beautiful couple pictures that I've selected that are supposed to be on my desk space.
Let me throw a little gas on the fire here.
Now hold on. That's a legitimate con right there.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't the sort of quasi everybody has their faults things that I read of you. That one's a legitimate dagger right there.
Well, yeah. But like I said, I'm going to throw a little gas on this fire. So you've misplaced at least one photo. Maybe more? I don't know. At least one. Have you misplaced any of your geek items?
I mean, I have a lot. So if we start asking me where is this one and where is that one, yeah, some of them I don't know where they're at.
All right. So it's fair. So you're not just losing pictures of your wife.
No, I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of quote-unquote stuff, and some of it gets misplaced, and some of it is under piles of other stuff.
And that's fine. I just find that is right. That is a legitimate con.
So my question is, I wonder how much of this is relatable to the other geeks and nerds out there and their significant others. Maybe you can say this about Shaylee. I don't know her intimately well enough to know this. Is she actually a geek or a nerd herself, or just a little bit and you bring it out of her?
I'd say it's in between the two. She definitely has a geek flag, but I didn't think she had the opportunity or the exposure during the nerd formative years.
Yeah.
To properly express that.
Well, because I know she's really into music, and
Yes.
she's really into movies and film, so to speak.
Yes.
But I never thought of her being really full-blown into nerd and geek stuff. I think you are bringing that out of her a little bit more.
I exposed her to Firefly, and she freaking loved it. Loved it. Doesn't like the theme song. Because I'm like, oh, that's so good. She's like, it's country, and no.
Yeah, because she's a huge music lover, so yeah. She's
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I just didn't think she had the opportunity, and also, her scope is a little bit more focused. Loves Firefly, totally wants to sit down and watch all of Battlestar Galactica with me. But that's a long undertaking. But
Yeah.
so we've done that. And as far as comics, she doesn't read a lot of, or really any of my comics, but she is a huge fan of Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen, yeah. So let me ask another follow-up question here. Anything that I said to you from Shaylee caught you off guard or surprised you?
No.
Anything that you maybe thought she would have said but didn't?
That's a good question. The last one, the blah, 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 I was expecting that to be kind of like one of the first ones, because I know who I am, and I know I can go on and on and on about geek stuff. So, and that's why I asked the whole eyes glazing over thing, because I see that on the regular.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like you said, she has a narrower scope. You have a very wide scope. So even sometimes on this show, you're talking about things that I don't know anything about. I'm not saying they're not any good.
Right.
I just don't know anything about them, and I can tell that like you're very much into them.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I'm a very well-rounded geek. Because sometimes you have Star Wars nerds and you have Star Trek nerds. I'm both.
See, we had this conversation with a person I work with, Rhonda, big Lord of the Rings fan, and Harry Potter. She always says we don't give those two things enough love, but whatever. Start your own show if you want to talk about that nonsense.
That's right. You start your own show, Rhonda.
But anyways, I was kind of telling her, like, I'm kind of a specialist. I'm a Star Wars specialist. I mean, I'll go toe-to-toe with a lot of people. I'm not trying to prove anything, but, like, I can go deep in Star Wars conversations.
You're reading all these books?
Yeah, just devouring some of the books now, the new canon books. But there's a lot of things that I don't know a lot about. But I do know a ton about Star Wars. You know what I mean? Whereas you, I feel like you're more of a generalist. You know a fair amount about a lot, but you're not 100% into Star Wars or 100% into Lord of the Rings or 100% into Star Trek even.
I think I definitely know more about Star Wars than the average person, and maybe
for some reason you do like to get into DC more than you should. I don't know why, but
he's digging on DC there. He's just knocking it. DC has its moments, but you're right. I wouldn't say I'm a surface geek because I go deep on some things. But yes, when it comes to Star Wars, if there was a Star Wars quiz show or trivia, I would have to believe that you would do better at the minutia there because
you can only absorb so much stuff, right?
Right.
So like your pie chart it includes other things. My pie chart is like 95% Star Wars.
Right. Now, before we get too far off topic, you asked me some questions about Shaylee. I want to ask you about Amanda. Turn on the same question to you about being a geek. Was she geek accepting, or did she have her own geek flag that she was ready to fly?
I think most of the geek stuff I've introduced her to. Like you said, I don't think she had much of a geek background. I think she very much still had that kid at heart thing that is important to being a geek.
Oh, yes.
Having the ability to be a geek, you have to be a little bit kid at heart. So I think she had that. But I think a lot of the sort of nerd geek stuff, I may be wrong, but I think I'm introducing her to a lot of it. A lot of things that we just talk about commonly that she'd never heard of until I sort of showed her to, which I want to make a point. She pointed out as a con about anime and documentaries, but she didn't point out as a pro all of the amazing movies and storylines and things that I know she never would have known about if I hadn't shown it to her. So I feel a little slighted that I didn't get credit for that. I only got the short end of the stick. I didn't get the good side of that one.
You got the thank you for Star Wars. That's a big thank you.
Yeah, well, that's doing God's work, really.
You've done good.
Yeah.
You've done good.
Okay, so I think we got what we need to get out of this segment.
I was highly entertained. And as soon as this episode is over, I'm supposed to call Shaylee because she's very concerned as to how well I would take this. But
interestingly enough, like I said, there to me, there's nothing to be worried about here. So the fact that she was worried about that further states that she is very, very much in love with you, very, very much concerned about your feelings, even though there was nothing in here to even remotely get upset about.
Yeah. There was nothing. I'm not upset by any of it.
It's not like she yelled at you for not having her photo on your desk at work.
But I do have her photo on my desk.
But that's what I'm saying. There was no other thing even remotely close to that.
Over 30 variations of Storm and Clone Trooper on my desk.
30?
Well, yeah. You got to have the Clone Troopers, the Phase 1, Clone Troopers Phase 2.
You got a bigger desk than I do then.
Well, they're the 3.5-inch figures. They don't take up a lot of... Though I do also have a 3-foot Death Trooper.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got to have that.
Okay, so segueing out of this topic, we learned a lot about each other, and I think we shared a lot more that for you guys to know about us, everyone out there. Coming up in this episode still, we have Should I Check It Out next, and then we're going to wrap things up and tease you with what's going on for the next episode.
Let's do it. All right, welcome back to a short segment we like to call Should I Check It Out? We were talking about future episodes, and I thought neither of us had seen Batman vs. Superman. I haven't.
However, I just found out Alan has. So he's going to tell me, should I check it out?
So, short answer, yes. I think you should check it out. It was kind of a letdown, but it's definitely one of those movies where when you hear something is a letdown, you are like completely turned off by it. I'm not so pessimistic or critical. So, yeah, there were some bad parts about it, but it definitely was worth checking out. I mean, look, you have an interaction between Batman and Superman. How can you not want to check that out? I mean, right? In its own, that's worth checking out, I would think.
I have to admit, before it came out, and I saw Batman in the armor, it looked like a scene out of The Dark Knight Returns, which I don't know if you've read, but is one of the greatest Batman comics that came out of the 80s. There was a fight between Batman and Superman, and Batman wins, of course, because Batman always wins. So when I saw that, I thought, that looks pretty sweet. Now, you're right, I do have a tendency to be pessimistic, but all the reviews I saw said it was not as good as Man of Steel, and I did not like Man of Steel.
You know, I didn't love Man of Steel either. I might say it's a little bit better than Man of Steel because there's more action packed into it, I guess. But, I mean, that's not setting the bar real high. And I'm a DC hater, like I said. So the bar for DC is low to me. So it did take me a while to watch it. And, in fact, I watched it on the plane ride. I think coming back from Asia even. So it was like...
You were a captive audience. You had no choice.
I was completely captive, and I didn't pay anything for it. I didn't have to leave my seat to go get the movie and plug it in or even use my remote, whatever. So I didn't think it was that bad. What I will say is, do you want me to... I don't think this is a spoiler alert. You're aware of one of the villains in the movie, right?
You could spoil away. I think I know every spoiler there is to the movie.
Okay, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, exactly. So if you've read enough about it to know it's terrible, you probably know. The thing I was most disappointed with was Doomsday. And the reason I say that was because I really loved the whole Doomsday storyline in the Death of Superman comic back in the day.
Back from the 90s?
Yeah, back from the 90s.
You read those comics?
Yes. I still have the one sealed in the black bag.
So do I.
With the bloody logo on it. But anyways, I loved that whole storyline, and I just felt they just completely DC'd it away. You know, they just completely...
Wait, what do you mean DC'd it away?
I mean, they took something that could have been great. They took something that could have been a 6-movie build-up with Justice League, like it was in the original comics, and they just puked it out into a script to try to make money with Batman. Like, why would you throw Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Doomsday all into one movie with no build-up? I mean, hasn't Marvel proven to this stage that you build those up individually and make this the big payoff? So that's why I'm a DC hater. I just feel like, you know, they haven't figured it out yet. And this movie was a good example of that, but it's worth checking out.
See, and that's the thing. It feels to me forced that DC is trying to jumpstart their cinematic universe and catch up with Marvel just like that.
Yeah, and it's not a catch-up game. You have to play it out the right way.
Right, but so simple as you can make it, why should I see it?
You should see it because of all those things I said, all thrown into one big train wreck of a movie. And like you just have to see it more so to analyze and have a critical commentary about it. Now, if you weren't a nerd or a geek, I would say no. But you are, and you like DC much more than I do. So I feel like this is your team, Team DC.
I like
you have
DC
to check it out.
Comics. So far, none of the films have done it for me, except for the Nolan Batman films.
So, should I check it out? Yes. Will I like it? Michael, no. You won't like it, but I'm saying you should check it out.
Why should I check something out that I know I'm not going to like then?
I just think you should because I said so. That's the segment.
Fair enough. At some point, I will check it out. Maybe when it's free. Maybe when I'm a captive audience. At some point, I will watch it. I can't not.
The reason why you may not watch it for a long time is because it is a heck of a time commitment. So that it's going to be hard to make a time commitment for a movie that you're pretty sure you're not going to like. So eventually when you do, we'll come back and chat about it. But I think, yes, you should check it out.
Fair enough.
Well, there you have it. That's episode 8 in the can, if you will. Still have not seen Superman vs. Batman, but Alan has made a compelling argument. I will see it at some point.
Yeah, based on our segment, you're going to have to check it out, of course.
At some point. It's just I'm having a hard time. But
So-
I will do it.
Interestingly enough about that movie, that sort of relates to the main topic of our next show, where we're going to sort of do a rundown, maybe dig a little deeper, put on our maybe sort of geek business hats, and compare and contrast the universes and the franchises that are at play right now in the geek and nerd world.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what's being done right, what's being done wrong, what's working, what's not working.
What ones have baggage that maybe other ones don't have that they're dealing with.
Right, I mean, yeah, some are making money. I mean, they're all making money if they're still franchises, but are they getting the critical acclaim they should? Are they getting dissed? Is there a reason why they're getting dissed?
Yeah. Is there some learnings if we get into the discussions like, well, if there's going to be another new franchise or world on the horizon that we're just in the infancy of now, like they're going to learn from some of these things that we're seeing people succeed and fail at right now.
Exactly. Are people taking notes from the Marvel playbook, the DC playbook, what have you, Avatar? What's coming next, and what can they learn from what's come out already?
Yeah, so I think that's going to be fun. A lot of nuts and bolts discussion there that can be applied to all of the franchises in general. So look forward to that the next episode, and Michael, take us home.
Remember, once again, we have our email address, WNRDpodcast@gmail.com, and our Twitter, same thing, @WNRDpodcast. We still have the SoundCloud. I have to admit I need to update a couple of our old episodes because SoundCloud we only put, 3 episodes or so?
Yeah, we
up?
can only keep 3 recent ones on there, but then we use YouTube to house all the episodes.
That's right. So search for us on YouTube and just search for WNRD Podcast. You'll find us right away. We pop right up.
Subscribe.
Yes, subscribe and input. Tell us what you think. You just listened to this episode. Do you have a significant other that listens to your, or doesn't listen to you, but accepts your nerdly ways?
Yeah, and even if this episode's old and you're listening to it 3 months from now, like, we got nothing better to do. We're still going to be excited about that comment that came 3 months late.
Exactly. We're geeks. We need to be adored and loved, and we need feedback. So hit us up, and we're going to be signing out.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Be seeing you.